Let's be real for a second. You say you want to be rich, you post the vision board, follow finance influencers, maybe even binge-watch success podcasts. You tell yourself, one day I'll make it big. But deep down, something's off. Because if you really wanted it, with every fiber of your being, wouldn't you be doing more than just wanting? Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people don't fear being broke, they're familiar with it. They know how to survive paycheck to paycheck. What they really fear is the responsibility, the change, and the identity shift that comes with real wealth. You ever notice how some folks win the lottery then go broke within 5 years? Or how someone finally gets a raise, and suddenly they're more stressed than before? That's not about money, that's about mindset. See, money is loud, not in sound, but in meaning. It triggers guilt, shame, pride, ego, worth, and fear, all at once. And for a lot of people, that emotional noise is too overwhelming. So what do? They sabotage, they procrastinate, they shrink. They don't avoid money. They avoid what they think money will reveal about them. Let's take Sarah, for example. She's smart, responsible, has a decent job. She says she wants financial freedom. But every time she gets ahead, maybe a bonus or some savings, she finds a way to spend it. Something urgent always comes up. Deep down, Sarah isn't scared of not having. She's scared of having more than she's used to. Why? Because in her world growing up, rich people were selfish. Wanting more made you greedy. And success? That came with isolation, judgment, and pressure. So even now, as an adult, part of her believes that staying just comfortable, never too broke, never too rich, keeps her safe. But here's the twist. Comfort is the most seductive form of fear. And fear? Fear will dress itself up as practicality. It'll whisper, be responsible. Don't get your hopes up. Play it safe. You ever wonder why so many smart, capable adults stay stuck financially even when they know better? It's because no one taught us how to be emotionally wealthy. No one explained that money problems usually start in your head, not your wallet. So let me ask you again, and be honest with yourself this time. You want to be rich? But do you really? Because until you confront what wealth means to you, not just on paper, but in your identity, your relationships, your beliefs, money will keep slipping through your fingers like water. Look, if money makes you feel a little uncomfortable, you're not alone. There's a quiet tension most people carry when it comes to wealth. You feel it when someone pulls up in a luxury car and part of you admires it. But another part whispers, who do they think they are? You feel it? When you want to charge more for your time but guilt creeps in, like you're asking for too much. You feel it when success knocks, and you hesitate to answer the door. Here's the thing, that discomfort isn't random. It's been wired into you. If you grew up hearing things like money doesn't grow on trees or we're not those kind of people, you were being trained. Not how to make money, but how to feel about it. That training didn't come with a warning label, but it shaped everything. Your self-worth, your expectations, even what you believe you deserve. A lot of this runs deep in American culture. There's this weird contradiction we live with. We're told to chase the American dream, but if you chase it too hard, you're seen as greedy. We admire wealth, but we also resent it. It's like we're trying to win a game we've been secretly taught to feel ashamed for playing. And religion? That's another layer. If you sat through sermons about how the love of money is the root of all evil, it makes sense why part of you might feel like desiring wealth is morally wrong. Even if you don't believe that anymore, the emotional residue sticks. That subconscious guilt still speaks. Not with words, but with hesitation, with sabotage, with self-doubt. You start to internalize the message. If I want more, that means I'm selfish. Or worse, if I succeed, people will think I've changed. So you shrink. You play small, not because you don't have big dreams, but because somewhere deep down you're scared of what those dreams might cost. That fear? It's not weakness, it's programming. Most of our beliefs about money were inherited, not chosen. and because no one ever sat us down and said, "Hey, let's talk about your money mindset," we just absorbed what was around us: stress, arguments. Jimmy, silence. Think about it. How many times did you hear your parents talk openly and peacefully about money? Now compare that to how many times you felt tension when the topic came up. Exactly. That emotional blueprint became your financial operating system. And now, as an adult, you're trying to build wealth using code that wasn't written for abundance. It was written for survival. But survival mode will never lead to financial freedom. They don't speak the same language. So if money still feels emotionally charged for you, if part of you wants it but another part resists, know this: you're not broken, you were just conditioned. And the good news, conditioning can be reprogrammed. Here's the shift that changes everything. Money isn't evil, it's a tool, and you deserve to use it well. Read that again. Because for most of your life, you've been taught to associate wealth with ego, danger, or disconnection. You've been told stories, maybe not directly, but in 1,000 little ways, that people with money are cold, selfish, even corrupt. That if you ever became wealthy, you'd lose yourself, or worse, lose the people you love. But what if that's not the truth? What if that's just a hand-me-down belief passed from generation to generation? One that served a purpose back then, but is sabotaging your growth now. Think about this. A hammer can build a home or destroy one. Same tool, different intention. Money works the same way. It's not good or bad. It just amplifies what's already there. If you're generous, it helps you give more. If you're creative, it funds your vision. If you're responsible, it buys you time, peace, and freedom. So ask yourself, what could money do for the best version of you? Because you can't heal your relationship with money until you stop demonizing it. And you can't start building wealth until you stop feeling guilty for even wanting it. That's the emotional trap most people fall into. They say they want freedom, but carry shame for desiring abundance. It's like trying to run towards something with one foot on the brake. So here's your first step out of that cycle. And yeah, it's simple, but don't confuse simple with easy. I want you to grab a notebook and write this down. If I had more money, I would. Now finish that sentence 10 times. No censoring, no judging, just let it pour out. You'll be surprised what surfaces. Some answers will be obvious. Pay off debt, travel, buy my mom a house. Others will expose fears you didn't know were there. Finally quit my job, stop depending on anyone, prove I'm not a failure. That list, that's your map. That's where your money story lives. And once it's visible, you can start rewriting it. Because here's what no one tells you. The richest transformations don't start with your bank account. They start in your beliefs. They start when you stop apologizing for wanting more. This isn't about being greedy. It's about reclaiming your right to dream without guilt. You were never meant to struggle forever. You weren't put here just to pay bills and stay humble. Your desire for more? That's not arrogance. That's your soul asking for space to grow. So the next time that inner voice whispers, "Maybe I'm not meant to be rich," you look it straight in the eye and say, "Actually, maybe I am." And that's where it begins. Most people don't actually fear having money. What they fear is what money might change, or more precisely, what it might reveal. You ever wonder why you hesitate when opportunity shows up? Like when you could have asked for that raise, launched that idea, or taken that investment leap, but you didn't? It's not always about logic. It's not about the risk. It's about identity. Because deep down, part of you is scared that if you actually got rich, you wouldn't recognize yourself anymore. That you'd become one of them. That people would start expecting more from you, or worse, resenting you. Maybe they'd say, "You've changed." And that phrase right there, that's one of the deepest subconscious fears most people carry. Let's be honest. A lot of us grew up equating humility with struggle. We were taught that keeping things simple, modest, even hard, was noble. That having too much would make us arrogant or disconnected. So without realizing it, we created this inner ceiling, a limit to how much we allow ourselves to receive before guilt kicks in. And when guilt shows up, so does sabotage. You start spending impulsively. You make excuses. You procrastinate on the very things that could elevate you, not because you don't want success, but because part of you still thinks success is dangerous. Think about it. How many people have you seen rise, only to fall right after? It's not always because of bad luck or bad timing. Sometimes they just couldn't hold the weight of their new identity. It felt too unfamiliar, too exposed. And this isn't about money management, it's about emotional capacity. It's about how safe you feel being seen, admired, even envied. Because being broke, while uncomfortable, is often predictable. No one expects too much from you. You're not a target. You're relatable. But being wealthy? That can feel like standing alone in the spotlight, with everyone watching and judging. So unconsciously, you dim your light. You keep your dreams quiet. You reject abundance, not because it's bad, but because you're scared of being alienated by it. But let me ask you this. What if becoming wealthy didn't make you less of yourself, but more of who you really are? What if money just clears out the noise and gives you the room to finally breathe, create and contribute at your highest level? The fear isn't really about money. It's about exposure. It's about stepping into a version of yourself that doesn't have the safety net of struggle to hide behind. It's about becoming powerful and still being loved. And that fear is valid, but it's not a reason to stay small. The truth is, you can be wealthy and kind, powerful and grounded, rich and respected. You just have to believe that becoming more doesn't mean losing everything, because sometimes the real reason you're stuck isn't because you can't succeed. It's because part of you is still scared of what success might cost. Let's cut to it. The biggest block between you and real wealth might not be strategy or opportunity. It might be self-worth. You say you want more money, more freedom, more choices, but underneath that desire, there's often a quiet question echoing in the background. Do I really deserve it? And if you're being honest, sometimes the answer feels like no. That feeling doesn't come out of nowhere. It's shaped by years of subtle messaging, not just from society, but from your own life. Every time you were overlooked, underpaid, or made to feel like your effort wasn't enough, it chipped away at your internal value. Not just as a worker, but as a person. You start to internalize the struggle. Struggle becomes familiar. And in that familiarity, comfort. So when things start going too well, when money starts flowing, when someone compliments your talent or pays you generously, it triggers discomfort, like you're playing a role you haven't earned. This is imposter syndrome in disguise, but not in your career. In your finances. And the truth is, you will never consistently hold on to money that you don't believe you deserve. That's why you see so many people make more and still end up broke. It's not always poor decisions. It's emotional rejection. The money feels too big for their identity. So they subconsciously get rid of it. They overspend, they undercharge, they give it away recklessly. Because somewhere deep down, they don't feel worthy of having it. You attract what you believe you're worthy of. That's not just spiritual fluff. It's psychological fact. We are constantly calibrating our lives to match our self-image. If your inner thermostat is set to just enough, then no matter how much comes in, you'll find a way to cool it down. That's why affirmations without inner work don't stick. You can chant, "I am wealthy," 1,000 times. But if your subconscious is screaming, "I don't deserve this," guess which one wins? So how do you shift that? Start by noticing the stories you tell yourself when money enters your life. When you get paid well, do you feel gratitude or guilt? When someone offers you help, do you receive it or deflect it? When you think about becoming truly wealthy, does it feel exciting or somehow wrong? These micro moments tell the truth, and once you see them, you can challenge them. You can rewrite the narrative, not overnight, but intentionally. Every time you accept abundance without apology, you raise the bar on what your nervous system believes is normal. Because wealth isn't just a numbers game. It's an identity shift. You're not just trying to make more money. You're trying to become someone who feels at peace having it. And that starts by knowing, without a doubt, that you're already enough. That you don't have to earn your worth. You only have to stop arguing with it. Take a moment and think back, not to a spreadsheet or a financial decision, but to your living room, your kitchen table, maybe even the backseat of your family car. Those everyday places where, as a kid, you started absorbing messages about money without even realizing it. What did you learn about money growing up? Not in school, at home, because that's where your real financial education began, and most of it had nothing to do with interest rates or savings accounts. It was emotional. It was reactive. It was quiet, but powerful. Maybe you saw your parents argue when the bills came. Maybe they whispered about how tight things are this month, like money was a ghost they didn't want to summon too loudly. Or maybe you saw the opposite, silence, no money talks at all, just tension in the air and things left unsaid. And if you were lucky enough to grow up around financial stability, that doesn't mean you escaped programming either. Maybe success came with pressure. Maybe abundance was treated like a responsibility you weren't ready for. Maybe it made you feel like you had to constantly prove your worth or earn love through achievement. Whatever the case, those early moments taught you something. Maybe not with words, but with repetition. You learned whether money was safe or scary, whether it brought connection or conflict, whether having it meant security or separation. And even if you don't remember every detail, your nervous system does. It remembers how it felt when your parents checked the mail inside. It remembers being told, "We can't afford that." Not just what was said, but how it was said, the emotion behind it, the finality. So now, as an adult, you find yourself reacting to money in ways that don't fully make sense. You overspend when you're anxious. You undercharge when you should know better. You avoid looking at your bank account, not because you're irresponsible, but because it triggers something deep and something old. That's not a character flaw. That's conditioning. You're trying to build a future while dragging around a money story written before you even had a say in the plot. But here's the truth. You didn't choose that story. It was given to you. And now you get to decide if you're going to keep living by it. Because financial freedom doesn't start with hustle. It starts with awareness. With the courage to ask yourself, is this belief even mine? You get to question the rule that says success has to be stressful. You get to let go of the guilt that comes with receiving. You get to rewrite what wealth means, not just in numbers, but in emotion, in peace, in power. The old story may have taught you survival, but it's your job now to write the one that teaches you how to thrive. And that starts with telling yourself the truth, even if your past didn't. There comes a moment, usually quiet, often in solitude, when you realize the enemy was never money. It was your meaning. All this time you thought the problem was numbers, budgets, debt, income. But underneath it all, what really shaped your financial life wasn't dollars. It was definitions. You defined money as pressure, as responsibility, as something you could lose at any moment, maybe even as a source of conflict or proof that you weren't doing enough. And the thing is, most of that didn't start with you. It was inherited. You took on beliefs like hand-me-down clothes, wearing them even when they didn't fit your life anymore. But what if you redefined the whole thing? What if money wasn't a verdict on your worth, but a mirror reflecting how you see yourself? If you believe life is always hard, you'll use money to reinforce that belief. You'll chase it in struggle, spend it in fear, and lose it in shame. But if you believe you're safe, capable, worthy, that you're allowed to have more without guilt, you'll handle money differently. You'll create with it. You'll breathe with it. See, the real transformation doesn't happen when you finally make six figures. It happens when your nervous system feels safe receiving, holding, and growing wealth without flinching. That's what no one teaches. Wealth isn't about accumulation, it's about expansion. Can you allow yourself to expand into a life where you don't apologize for wanting more? This isn't about luxury cars or Instagram lifestyles. This is about having enough space in your mind to dream, enough peace in your body to sleep well at night, enough freedom in your schedule to say yes when it matters and no when it doesn't. But you can't create that life with beliefs that belong to someone else. If you're still carrying guilt from your parents, fear from your culture, or shame from old failures, then you're building a future on emotional quicksand. It won't hold. So here's the invitation. Let money be neutral again. Let it be what it is, a tool, a resource, a multiplier. It can fund selfishness, sure, but it can also fund healing, opportunity, and freedom. And you get to decide what it does in your hands. The moment you stop fearing money and start seeing it clearly, not as a monster or a savior, but as a mirror, everything begins to shift. Because then you're not chasing wealth to fix something inside. You're building it from a place of wholeness. That's when money starts flowing differently. Not because the world changed, but because you did. So you've been carrying these beliefs, some inherited, some absorbed, some built from painful experiences, and now you're ready to let them go. But the question that always comes next is, how? How do you actually start reprogramming your relationship with money when it's been tangled up with fear, shame, and doubt for so long? First, understand this. The goal isn't to fix you. You're not broken. You don't need to become someone else to be wealthy. What you need is to start making space for a new emotional experience with money, one where fear doesn't run the show. This starts in the smallest, quietest moments, not in some massive transformation overnight, but in daily choices that shift your identity one belief at a time. And that begins with awareness, emotional awareness. You've got to catch the internal scripts when they start playing. When you get paid, what's your first feeling? Relief? Panic? Guilt? When you spend, what do you feel in control or out of it? When you think about saving, investing, asking for more, do you feel empowered or undeserving? These aren't just reactions, they're clues. Each one is a thread that leads back to a deeper belief. And once you notice them, you can start to rewrite them. Here's one simple but powerful practice. Start talking to yourself differently. Not fluffy affirmations you don't believe, but grounded truths that stretch you just enough. Instead of, "I'll never have enough," try, "I'm learning to trust there's more than enough." Instead of, "I'm bad with money," try, "I'm growing in how I handle money." Instead of, "I don't deserve this," try, "I'm allowed to receive without guilt." This might sound basic, but language shapes identity. And your identity is what drives behavior. The way you talk to yourself in the privacy of your mind determines whether you reach for opportunity or retreat from it. And don't stop there. Bring your body into it. Money trauma isn't just stored in thoughts, it's in your nervous system. That tight feeling in your chest when the credit card bill comes? That impulse to avoid looking at your account? That's not laziness. That's your body remembering. So, when the panic hits, pause. Breathe. Place your hand on your chest. Remind yourself, "I'm safe, I'm not in danger, I can handle this." That regulation, that returning to calm, is a radical act of wealth building. Because a regulated nervous system makes better financial decisions. Period. And finally, bring intention to your money. Don't just earn it, assign it purpose. Every dollar you direct with clarity, without fear, is a vote for your new identity. An identity that doesn't just want wealth, but is finally ready to hold it. Reprogramming your money mindset isn't about forcing positivity. It's about emotional honesty, daily practice, and deep self-respect. The kind that says, "I'm not just surviving anymore, I'm creating something different." And every time you choose that, you rewire a little more. So, are you still afraid to get rich? That might sound like a loaded question, but sit with it for a second. After everything we've unpacked, the guilt, the conditioning, the fear of being seen, the stories from childhood, ask yourself honestly, what's really been standing between you and the wealth you say you want? Most people think money is just a math problem, but by now you know better. You've felt it, the emotional weight, the tension, the deep inner conflict between wanting more and fearing what more might mean, wanting freedom but also fearing judgment, dreaming big but secretly shrinking to stay relatable. That push and pull, that's where most people stay stuck, not because they don't have ambition, but because they've never felt safe expanding. But here's the breakthrough. Being afraid of wealth doesn't mean you're unworthy of it. It just means you're human. It means you care. It means you've internalized messages that weren't meant to limit you but did anyway. And it means you now have the choice, the responsibility, to challenge those messages. Because staying broke, emotionally or financially, doesn't protect you. It just delays your purpose. You were never meant to live in a state of constant stress, shrinking your dreams to match someone else's comfort zone. That's not humility. That's fear, wearing a polite face. But the truth, fear can't fund your freedom. Shame won't pay your bills. Guilt will never give you the life you crave. Only clarity, belief, and bold action will. And no, you won't get it perfect. You'll still feel uncomfortable sometimes. You'll still bump into old beliefs. But each time you notice them and choose differently, you're shifting your story. You're becoming someone who doesn't just wish for more, but makes room for it. So if any part of this hit you, if something in your chest stirred, if a memory surfaced, if a quiet voice inside whispered, "This is me," don't let it fade when the video ends. Let it be the beginning. The beginning of a new relationship with money. One built on respect, not fear, on purpose, not shame, on expansion, not apology. You don't have to hustle harder. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. You just have to believe and truly believe in that you're allowed to want more, to have more, to become more. And if you don't know where to start here, with this conversation, with this truth. Being broke is temporary. Staying broke is a mindset. Reprogramming your money story, that's the first real investment. So if this resonated, if you're ready to shift one belief at a time, I'll be right here. Hit subscribe. We're unlearning this together.